Kazaa, we're live. Modern Relics Podcast. Angel, Lucky, the viewer. We're here.
Hey, everybody.
What's up, man?
Well, I thought we'd start off by letting everyone know that this is my last podcast, due to the fact that I have brand new employment with Space Force.
Nice.
I enlisted.
Let's go.
And they apparently were so desperate that they're taking 45-year-old burnouts. So I'm like, I'll join. Let's do this. So
I love it.
Yeah, no,
this is
got
great
my
news.
Space Force shirt on today. No, just kidding. I would never join the military at this point in time ever.
The deepest of callbacks.
Yeah.
I appreciate that you found it, though.
Oh, my Space Force shirt?
Yeah. Because I have a hat, I think, somewhere.
Yeah.
No idea where it's at the moment. It's
Mine
funny.
was in
I've been
the second
here.
drawer, so it was super easy to find.
Yeah, I've been here for a while, and I'm still like, I used to have one of those. Where is it? Like I'm unpacked, but I'm not.
Do you have a storage unit anywhere?
No, because
No,
like pretty much everything I have here came out of a studio apartment, more or less. So like I was like, what am I gonna do with all this space? Most of the stuff that I've added are, things that take up that space in the last couple of years. But hell if I know.
Right.
I just remember having stuff, and I'm like, where did that go? And now I can't find it.
Contrary to what your the current room you're sitting in would suggest.
Yeah.
You're actually kind of a minimalist.
Yeah.
As a human, like you've got your nice things, but you don't have too many like knick-knacky stuff.
Yeah.
So like, or you're not a man of excess outside of like certain items you like. You're a shoe guy. You like shoes, and then basically big toys.
Yeah,
and that's
I don't have the best newest of anything, but it is like the nicest kept whatever it is, and I just use the shit out of that for years and years. Yeah, no, this room though, to your point, like I do a lot of content in here. I create stuff in here, so like work on music over there. It's also my office for my day job, which is all that side of the room. So, and speaking of, almost lost this PC.
Whoa, why,
dude? So I'm looking at it and it's like firmware was 3 years old on the motherboard. I was like, okay, I'm seeing weird like hardware issues manifest that would probably be cleaned up by a firmware upgrade, and there's probably some security vulnerabilities too. I'm like, I should probably upgrade the firmware on this thing. I've done this lots before. This particular board, long story short, has a backup. So you can hit a button and switch over to a different firmware version that comes preloaded on it. So I loaded a bad firmware version that I got from the manufacturer's website. And I was like, oh, that sucks. It doesn't recognize anything. All my hard drives, the operating system, nothing. I'll just switch back to the old one. There was no old one.
Oh no, did you have like a full-on heart attack?
I was up till like probably 6 a.m. and then just guzzled some coffee and went to work. I was like,
yeah. Was that last night?
No, this was Sunday night, and just gone. No hard drives. I'm like, I don't know what you mean. So I went through like 5-6 different versions of like installs, and then it started to read, oh, you have hard drives plugged in and shit. What do you want to do? I'm like, look for the Windows bootloader is what I would like for you to do. Oh, here it is. And then everything came back to life and all my settings were how they were. I was just like, that was harder than it should have been. And I do this all the time. So
why did it do that?
Word to the PC enthusiast. It was just a bad firmware version on their website. And then it left a bunch of corrupt stuff that I had to clean off. And I didn't really want to reformat everything, lose all of my files, folders, scenes, podcast shit, settings. So word to the enthusiast, double check your motherboard has a backup BIOS copy if you're ever going to upgrade the firmware of the root of your PC. So anyway, we're up to date now. We have a good...
Or if you run into that problem, raise a 15-year-old son who can do it for you.
There you go. Yeah, I looked in the couch cushions. I was fresh out of 15-year-old kids, so I had to figure it out. But
I always have to just point at either Aaron or Oliver. The thing isn't doing it. The thing isn't doing the thing.
You're like the guy in the meme that's like poking the the dead bird. Like, do something. Do something.
Yeah, that's me for sure.
I love it. Well, with tech anyway.
I always joke that I'm that scene in Zoolander where I'm like, it's in the computer,
right?
And then he goes all like, starts bashing it like a monkey.
There's a 5 o'clock in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how was your week? What's good in the hood? You're actually didn't get a job at Space Force. Turns out.
I did not.
Yeah.
They turned me down.
Yeah.
No, I don't think the week was fairly normal, like just kind of work and stuff. Trying to stay abreast of like the local things, and see if anything that we talked about on previous episodes, but nothing. There is no updates at all. Like the women's basketball team, there's no updates on that. Even after they released the blurry photos of the car and all that, everyone went wild questioning that. No one believed that.
Damn.
But they haven't given any other updates at all. And then also same with the ISIS kid. Haven't heard a single thing since. Nothing. So
imagine
they're being very quiet about both of those on any type of law enforcement or news front about any of it. And so people are asking, but we haven't gotten any updates via like FOIA requests or anything like that. So we're still waiting on those, and they have a time frame, like a limit. So I think those are coming up here pretty quickly on some of the ones that have come out. So
Gotcha.
Hopefully by next episode we will have at least something via FOIA or press release of some kind.
How long do those take to turn around?
Depends on the department, depends on the state, and depends on the department. Typically, it's roughly 10 business days. Sometimes it can be up to 2 weeks. So it really depends. But once they're past their allotted time frame, they can get in some heavy trouble for that. So they have to produce everything. Now, there's also other stuff that kind of gets incorporated with FOIAs, which is that, and I don't know, this is Idaho specific or if this is on a national level, but if you in fact request too big of a time frame and like this date to this date, and the search terms are too generalized, they're not specific enough.
Yeah, like I want everything on Project Green in 1973 to 1982. It's like
right.
Yeah.
Well, even if it's more than like a 2-week period of time, and the search word that you're looking for produces over a certain amount of searches for within the context of the email or any other type of communication that is a legally admissible communication realm of any of those. So if it's too much, they can charge you. So you have to slim down the parameters and say, I just need these 2 days with these specific words, and then if it's under like 50, then you get those for free, but anything past that, they end up starting to charge you, and it can be pretty expensive actually. So
interesting.
Yeah, it's weird things that you learn when you've got a wife who digs around in other people's business too much. So
positively, of course.
Positively, yes. Yeah. So yeah, professional snoop.
It's like expecting this like fist to just come raining from the side of the screen.
Oh, she's at a softball game.
Oh, perfect. You're like,
where mean ladies belong. Yeah.
Where mean ladies belong.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So updates around the horn, boss. OJ's gone. He died. He passed away. What?
Certainly did it. Yeah, he died. He was at 76, which I heard someone say today is old for a football player.
I mean,
also old for an actor, and also old for a murderer. So like,
yeah, the internet doesn't lose, do they?
Yeah.
No.
So, but yeah, apparently it was old prostate cancer that got him. So, not the long arm of the law. But from what I understand, because I didn't keep up with OJ after,
Right.
I apparently wrote a book where it's like, if I had done it, and it was like hilariously mocking the court system. But then apparently he got into some other legal troubles. From what I understand, it was like, was there kidnappings that he got away with too of some kind? Like,
I feel like that's probably lore accurate. I have not followed OJ since the last time I thought about OJ Simpson. Besides right now, where all the memes are like, the white hearse that's actually a Bronco that's being chased by a bunch of cops, or
at a slow pace,
like the reliving of Tim Meadows' reenactment of OJ while he's casting the football game on Saturday Night Live. Did you see that?
Oh yeah.
The last time I thought about him was they cut a HBO style mini series with like actors and stuff that like recovered the trial. It was like a big thing not that long ago, maybe like in the middle of the pandemic, this thing dropped, and it was like, oh yeah, you get to relive like, Marsha, whatever her name was, Marsha Clark, and all the different players along the trial, and Kato Kalin and Johnny and all those guys. Yeah. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember how big this was.
I think
couldn't tell you what happened to him after that. I thought he was in jail.
The biggest crime that man ever committed was making the Kardashians famous.
It's true.
Like,
it's factually
more than
correct.
murder. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's awful what the plague he set upon society, because the Kardashian father was one of his lawyers, and it made him big. Right. It made him super famous, and then that's when, he, with his super, super rich family, and all of their fame and notoriety came out of that, and then they got divorced, and she took most of his money, and then married Bruce Jenner, which, California's finest, Bruce Jenner. But yeah, I have a hard time claiming the Jenner as part of our Republican side of the aisle. It's just a real hard pill to swallow on that one, but not to mention also a murderer. So like,
the whole thing is a bit of a circus, isn't it?
It very much is. But yeah, I mean, everyone seems to have forgotten that Bruce Jenner, not Caitlyn Jenner, but Bruce Jenner, drunkenly smashed into somebody with his car and killed people, and nothing ever happened. So, but
I don't think they can try him for double jeopardy, even if new news comes out on that, because now he's a she, right?
Yeah, right.
I don't know how that works.
If we could talk less about the Kardashians, I'd be way happy, because that's my least favorite topic on the planet. So,
yeah.
However, in California, there is another story going on that is super weird, and I want to get your take on this. Being someone that will never affect. I mean, it won't affect you until it creeps up into
my neck of the woods.
Your neck of the woods, but there is a new bill being proposed, and I have this from NBC News. So, a new bill is aiming to give Californians more work-life balance by restricting when employers can contact them during off hours. So-called right to disconnect laws have already made headlines overseas. If passed, California would be the first state in the U.S. to try it. Under the bill proposed by San Francisco Assemblyman Matt Haney, California companies would have to better specify employee compensated hours. In turn, employees would be expected to respond to calls, texts, or emails outside of that time frame. A welcomed change for remote workers like Rob Hayes. So basically what they're saying is that they will safeguard by law over any employer who might need to call in to cover a shift or anything like that, but by law will not be able to within selected timeframes, which I would imagine, if I read more into this bill, would be more than less. So there would be more time frame within the selected time frame of the off time, and you would have a small amount that you're kind of in the middle where they can call you in, maybe.
Yeah.
But I think it really is what it is affecting people who work from home, tech jobs and stuff like that people are having a hard time kind of separating or differentiating their home balance with their work balance, because it's all kind of blurring together over time, and then employers kind of taking advantage of that because they allowed it to begin with, but now they are in a situation where they don't really know when someone's working or not, and they are going to exploit that, as any corporate entity probably would. But I don't know if this extends. I could probably read further, but I don't know if it extends further into like, your average retailer fast food worker. Do they still get the same benefits that this is proposing, or is this?
I would assume so if it's a state law. Like,
right.
I'll just thought stream this, and maybe a hot take will come out of it. Recently in Washington State, employees now accrue 1 hour of paid sick leave for every 40 hours that they work, which is one of the more unique components of Washington's paid sick leave law, because employers are not allowed to cap the number of hours that you can accrue. So, for example, I am an employee of Washington State, and I am a resident of Nevada. So, as long as I continue to maintain 40 hours a week, I accrue sick time inevitably, right? But the company I work for over at Redacted also provides a sick time balance that accrues. It sort of rounds off based on the number of hours that you work. So I have 2 sick times. And you cannot be fired for being sick if you have sick time in your balance or whatever. So there's like these interesting like right to work loophole laws where it's bizarre, but you have a ton of sick time. So the idea that you can't pester employees off hours is probably good if there's an egregious condition by which employees are being picked on off hours. Now, most big corporations are really, really angling to get people to come back into the office for reasons that remain unclear, because every lease agreement on your office building is different. And a lot of them are, well, how much heads do you have in here? And the amount of traffic means the city that your building is in can tax you for the number of parking spaces that you need, which is why you have to charge your employees for parking, which is why you need to have heads in beds, butts in seats, right? I get all that, but California is such that specifically in the Silicon Valley area, I personally know people that fly into Silicon Valley on a morning exchange flight from an airport elsewhere in the country, go to work, and then fly home, because that is actually cheaper than living in the city that their job is in and working because they can't afford to.
Right.
So maybe for those people, picking on them while they're on their flight home or like off hours, I don't know. I mean, I think it's so situationally based. What is weird is that California is putting a blanket policy together that restricts employers from because how then do salaried employees justify being salaried? Right. Like at that point, it's like, well, then what are you have to document your hours and your hours of operation in order for this to be enforceable. Like, yeah, like it could still apply if your company manages stuff, but legally, like you have to have a time card, I think, which doesn't help anybody. Salary or not. So, I mean, I don't know. It is bizarre. But Do you think this will push larger companies to get rid of salary positions and go straight, hourly? If that becomes the precedent, then 100%. because
it
hourly
would only benefit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not going to pay you unless you're on the clock, right? Because if I can't bug you and I don't know, it makes more sense from a business perspective than to just eliminate your salaried employees and everyone just stamps a time card from that point on. And
why I don't think everywhere wants to do this is, imagine you have a problem. Let's say you have a technology problem and it pops up off hours, and it's bad enough where you have to open a bridge line with your technology teams to support it, and you have to open a tertiary bridge line with your public relations team to talk to the public about why money is flying out the door, or what the hell's going on. There are emergency state-based conditions for big corporations that have contingencies for this. Well, what happens if the $350,000 a year senior vice president of whatever can't be reached to talk about it because it's after hours? I mean, I don't think that's enough to edge case to threaten the norm, but certainly that would be a reason not to do something like this, like peanut buttering that over all of your employment base. But,
right.
Yeah, that's a weird one. I would love to know what drove that, because I assume, it sounds very much like the basis for a quality-ish argument between the Teamsters of whoever the hell union against whatever in a union contract negotiation.
It definitely feels like its
but now it's a state
come
policy
from a union conflict, and so family extended benefits, flexible hybrid work, fun social interaction. So
flexible hybrid work would be a way more blockbuster story if that was being signed into law. Yeah.
So, no, it's something that I've got there's a distracting NBC video here, so I'm trying to get
all the pop-ups and vignettes over what you're actually trying to read.
Right, and so I don't know. I think that this is obviously supposed to be tailored to kind of middle bracket or higher bracket employment, but I don't know if it fits for your average retail, the retail kids and, people for that matter, or restaurant workers or anything like that, kind of in the service industries or the retail industries.
Right.
They're going to really want to apply this to their employment. And I don't know if this is going to be helpful for that. I think that what will end up happening is both sides will try to exploit it to the best of their ability, and what it'll do is cause so much conflict that they will help propagate the animation of their jobs, where basically everything is now going to be robots, because they're easier to deal with, and I don't have to deal with any of this time off nonsense. On top of salaries getting boosted up to an egregious amount, or not salaries, but wages, with the boost up to, what is it, $20 an hour for even fast food restaurants in California?
Yeah, and
minus Panera Bread. I think this is just another nail in the coffin for those industries, for anybody who wants employment under, a certain level of employment.
Never mind the person that wants to go to In-N-Out Burger for a double and some fries, and they now have to pay $26 for their meal to justify having $18 to $20 an hour employees. Like,
right.
How do you not know that the cost of goods is going to skyrocket as a result of these decisions? That said, it is interesting because most of the management staff that I work with and around in my sphere, in spheres that are adjacent to me, kind of take the approach, especially in this hybrid/remote environment, of, okay, salaried employee, I kind of don't care if your working hours are from 1 a.m. to 10 a.m. If that's where you get your best thinking done and you're alone in a dark room hammering code onto a computer, if you're getting what I ask you to get done, I don't give a fuck if you work on the moon. I don't care if you're in Singapore. I don't care if you're in, like, truly, it's like we're still accomplishing the goals, we're still meeting the budgets, the demands, and everything that everyone has. Groovy. Is it weird? Yeah, it's not what I'm used to. I'd still like to have a one-on-one with you once a month during my operating hours, so I don't have to stay. You know what I'm saying? But like at the end of the day, a lot of people don't care so hard about it. But it is interesting that California is again leading the way with some progressive ideation on what the rules of the workplace should be. This time it's restrictions on contacting employees. And I'm sure there's a few edge cases where people are, hooray, I can't be bothered at 3:00 in the morning every time my boss wants something from me, or the pager goes off for some system that went down. But ultimately it's not a silver bullet to modern workforce in environments that I'm imagining. So I don't necessarily think it's a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea to kill salary either. Because the company would have to recognize if there are people that truly are in necessity level jobs that have to work overtime to get something done in a crisis period or in a crunch time period or a holiday period for those that are in retail. That's expensive. Time and a half at what a salaried employee conversion rate to hourly employee would look like is wildly expensive for the company. That's why they like salary. Because you're like, okay, sure, you left early on Friday, but I got you on Christmas Eve. I got you on Christmas Day. You're working hard. Like it's, the employee doesn't ever win in these things. So yeah, I'm interested to know what's motivating this, but I've seen pretty wild stuff like that Washington sick time policy before where it was like, okay, I don't take time off ever anyway, but you look at my time off balance and I'm like, okay, between my eligible time off for vacation, a personal day or a mental health day or whatever, plus all my sick time, I could theoretically take 2.5 months out of the year off like in a row, because I've been where I'm at for years. So like I've accrued the maximum capacity of time off, but that's the thing. And salaried employees give time back every year.
Right. I think the terminology for that is actually a sabbatical at that point.
Right.
You're not actually taking a vacation or time off. It's actually.
But I could do that without FMLA. Like if I just dump all of my points from every bucket that they can't get me in trouble for taking time off on for probably like 2.5 months. The problem with it is, and this is where companies win, guys like me that reach accrual caps like that end up giving their time back at the end of the year. I don't take 4.5 or 5 weeks of vacation a year. I don't have time to take 5 weeks of vacation a year. Stuff piles up, things burn down. Like, I can't. I try my best. It's like, it's a benefit, use it. It's a benefit, use it. Like you're entitled to have this time. They love it. They love it because, you're working hard. They end up getting time back you didn't take off. It's no penalty on them. You're a salaried employee. They're not paying me time and a half when I go into overtime for big projects or big work system things. And it's super helpful. So I don't think that'll become the norm outside of California, but we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah. I can't imagine.
It is weird though. Really weird.
Yeah, it is weird. I can't imagine any other, Idaho's definitely not going to be hopping on that train anytime soon. And I would imagine nor is Texas, nor is a couple of other places, even with the tech boom in Texas right now. Yeah. I would have a hard time seeing them pass that type of legislation. Any type of, labor or union laws that
the level of work to achieve compliance on a law like that for the companies, who the hell wants to do all that extra work to figure out if they're compliant for that or not, or go to court for it?
They would literally have to hire more people just to track that.
100%.
So yeah. But
although if the exchange rate for each hourly employee that gets hired is another sales license to my software I'm selling you somehow for your HR program that's dominating California, maybe that's the special interest that's pushing for a law like this, because it's going to force everybody to be an hourly employee. I don't know. The apocalyptic thought process, but who the fuck knows? I have no idea. That is funny though.
You said.
Oh, you want me?
You said.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you were talking about
Oh, and my walk-ons, student loans, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I keep hearing all this awesome stuff about the student loan forgiveness program, and I scoffed at it the first time, and my heart, like as a human being, is kind of torn on this. I have very close people to me that are still paying off student loans that are in some pretty egregious loan situations, right? Like if you look at it, I've paid $35,000 on the same $10,000 loan, that type of stuff forever and ever, right? Because it's just I cannot get ahead. If I stopped making payments on other stuff and dumped all of my paycheck on this, and then the principal, but they don't allow principal payments in a lot of these things. They only allow you to pay whatever you agreed to pay so they can keep the interest as high as they can. It's hard because I want to see them get out from underneath this whale, but the idea that it's like, well, the whole system is predatory against, okay, sure. Some of the tactics are what they are and this, that, and the other, but you also signed up for it. You also took on that debt and you knew what it would cost, even if you didn't read the fine print. Well, no one reads the end user license agreement. That's why companies like Apple and Samsung win, because nobody reads the fucking EULAs. I understand both sides of the argument. What I don't like is when the president of the United States descends from on high to wave a magic wand at the expense of inflation, at the expense of the taxpayer, at the expense of everybody else that doesn't have any fucking student loan debt, that will inevitably cycle back into, what are you going to, well, we've always operated at a deficit ever since 2001 and we haven't been that bad. Great. Let's add $400 billion to that problem. I don't want to pay for somebody else's student loan, right? So now it's starting to spin back up again. Election year. Oh, we're set to forgive votes. We're set to forgive so much more, blah, blah, blah. Look, President Bush put together if you were on a certain type of loan, I don't remember exactly what this was. If you're at a certain type of student loan, there was a point in which you could get out from underneath it, or you could have most of it forgiven, or there was a repayment series of plans and how lenders got around that was changing the type of loan that was your student loan so that you didn't qualify for some of those provisions by that government body way back then. But to outright just forgive student loans, it's like, well, how much of this is actually happening? When you look at the numbers on whitehouse.gov and stuff, the fact sheet, it's like, okay, well, this is the administration telling tales. Let's figure out how much of this is actually working. Same stuff. Very hard to understand, extremely difficult, if not impossible to qualify for. And they're looking for basically poverty level income earners with at or under $12,000 worth of student debt that was absorbed at one time. Meaning I chose to take a student loan that was only up to about 12 grand at the time I took it. Those are their priority people. So the charitable part of me is like, okay, well, that's probably the person that needs it the most if you're going to do this at all. And I have no say in it, which sucks. But where's the rest of this going? So here comes descending from on high to mingle with the commoners once more, the Biden administration on an election year, promising another X $100 billion of student loan forgiveness, and everyone's spinning right back up again. I don't think the system is working, first of all. Secondly, I don't like that we have to pay for it, especially with how crazy the costs of goods, prices, and living is today. And I think if they are successful in changing the rules where they can beat the lenders around the type of loan they're about to forgive, it is going to get so much worse. Do you agree with any of that? Am I just being a piece of shit? I should just be open-hearted about the whole thing and be like, well, it sucks you took all that money. I guess we should just pay it back for you. What, tax the rich and the big companies? That's the answer? Where the fuck do you think that's going to come out of? The local economy and the employee base.
I have multiple problems with this entire scenario. And very similar to our cabinet, there's abolishment that I would automatically just go with on a lot of these institutions right out of the gate, but I don't get to live my dreams in that regard. So
Right.
I have to live in the reality of what is. And what is I didn't take loans out.
Right.
Plain and simple. Sorry. All of that is being taken out of taxpayer money. All of the forgiveness is not just being printed or it's free. 7.4 billion on this round for 277,000 borrowers. I didn't go to college. I shouldn't have to pay for someone else's college. My kids didn't either, and they're going to be swallowing that debt too.
Mm-hmm.
Oliver will go, but guess what? We know that he's taking. We'll try to trim away whatever debt we can keep him from going into.
Yeah.
And we're going to get as many scholarships as we can get for hockey or whatever.
Grants,
academic,
the whole nine. Yeah.
Right. But we don't have any money to give. So what's going to end up happening is Oliver will probably go to law school and he'll probably get a little bit of debt because we'll be smart about it and make sure that we're not putting him into super debt. But yeah, they're predatory companies with predatory banks, and the institutions of education are a system that I, at this point, don't even think most of them, if not outright all of them, should exist at this point. They are indoctrination centers. So I already have a bias against the college and higher education system as it is, due to what they've produced in the last, I don't know, 30, 40 years. So maybe even 50 if we're really crawling back into the when the Marxism actually started intentionally infecting itself into those institutions, including the banking institutions, which obviously are evil. And so I am not sympathetic to the colleges. I'm not sympathetic to the banking systems, but I'm also hardly sympathetic for people who thought that they were just going to. But there is a part of me that the one part of me that is sympathetic is that for 2 generations, 3 generations, we were told that if you don't go to college, if you don't get that degree, you're not going to be worth anything. But the problem is that that's where the conversation ended. Is that you need to get a piece of paper.
Well, and the goalpost moved a few times.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. But they didn't say what type of piece of paper. So these kids are coming out with idiot degrees that mean nothing. They don't actually learn anything. I have a
major in lesbian dance theory and a minor in underwater basket weaving, and I expect a 6-figure.
And that's even extreme on the end of that stuff, because that stuff, obviously people are coming out of these institutions with papers written with very similar things on them.
Right.
But I'm even just talking about psychology degrees. I'm talking about like degrees that I know so many people my age or maybe a decade younger that have either bachelor's or master's in some type of psych department or some type of educational department or some type of degree, and they aren't using it.
Doing nothing with
my
it.
My brother-in-law has a master's in history. And you know what he does? He lays concrete. But guess what? He's got all the fucking debt for it. So
here's a potential solution. Like, if I was to descend from on high and mingle with the commoners, and I got to wave a magic federal wand and make a lot of this disappear, I would probably target the very institutions that have all these open loans. And I would put a lot of auditory and cap limits on what they're able to charge for interest and how the structure of the loan is. I'd say this is your current inventory and this is what we're changing it to, and all future inventories of loans that you're collecting from net new students will be under this governance rule. If we're going to keep the system, let's put some rules on it, right? Secondly, you know what seems to combat welfare the best every time? Charity.
Yeah.
How cool would it be if the government sponsored a movement or a motion that, hey, how about you get some sort of tax voucher or some sort of credit up to, this, that, or the other thing, $500, up to $100, $500,000 on the purchase of something that goes back into the economy. If you donate X number of dollars into the student loan forgiveness program, help your buddy out that has that master's degree in history that's pouring concrete right now that will never get out from underneath that loan. See how much raw capital you could put together just from the charity of people that earnestly care about those that are stuck under a fucking student loan. And see if you could at least take a bite out of it, right? Like, is that the answer where it's going to solve everything? No, but it will certainly build a better tomorrow if there's some structure around what's going on today. You know,
honestly, even a private sector organization that was their primary focus would be a better solution to me than having the government who caused this problem
wave a wand
like. So I think someone private sector created a 501c3 or something to that effect, a nonprofit that basically that's what they do. You get a loan, they help facilitate the loan with the caveat that you pay through them, and then it cycles back into and they're the ones who put on the stipulations,
with transparent lending terms that are locked at rates that can't move or change with the times. Right. Because even if your student loan is forgiven, you're gonna end up helping pay everybody else's back too through the unbelievable runaway train that inflation's turning itself into.
Yeah.
And it's not getting better. And so as soon as you rejoice at that debt that's no longer going out, you're going to be super pissed along with the rest of us when you're paying, $17 a gallon for fuel and your tax rates are up to 13.5 and rising, and you can't get a home loan for under 20% APR or whatever the hell it's steamrolling toward. I don't know. I don't think there's a silver bullet, and I am sensitive to those that got fucked by the system on the way that the architecture loan was. But at the same time, you signed a paper, dude. I got shit to pay back too, but I'm, different ones. I don't have student loans.
I don't expect anyone to pay, I don't expect it at the expense of other people that
correct.
The bank forgives my car loans and that they just get to, like I get to keep the car, but everybody else technically gets to pay it off.
Oh, how sick would that be? Your student loans forgiven if you furnish us your original master's degree.
Mortgage?
Like you have to give back your degree and you lose your accreditation because you didn't.
That'd be hilarious.
God.
I used to have a master's in history, but not anymore. I didn't pay it off.
Yeah. What'd you do with all that time? I just went to school and learned some stuff. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. That was brutal. Yeah. It's coming back up. It's an election year. I'm like, here comes buying the votes again, which is exactly what it is. But
without a doubt. I mean, that's the only transparency that I see in our current federal government is that when they do stuff like this, that it's an obvious vote buy. That's all. So
anyway, I had to look at it again because I'm like, how much has this helped? Not much. Who's eligible for it? Unclear. And what's the fallout from that? And it's basically coming right back to the taxpayer and all of us that are suffering through the interest hikes. Similar to raising the minimum wage and expecting the hamburger to cost the same amount. Doesn't work. So
it doesn't.
The other thing go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, I was just going to say that the other thing, you brought up the hamburger situation and the fact that, the wages are making and the cost of food is making, a $5 hamburger now, a $20 situation. And so now you've got these employees that are at $20 an hour and you can't even, like, somebody calls in sick. So you need to try to call somebody to fill that spot, but they fall under this new California bill that keeps you from doing that. So now you're working at a skeleton crew. It's not worth it. Just put robots in there.
Yeah.
That way you don't have to pay the $20 an hour at all or any of the insurance on it at all.
What's like short-term scary now that you mentioned that? Like actually thinking this thing through. Companies are going to cut costs and cut corners to compensate for the differential, right? Hey, there's a new Delta. How do we figure this out? They're going to cut costs on facilities maintenance, on cleaning, possibly on food quality product, like your food is getting less better and the environment won't remain as clean and the cost of the burger is going to go up all at the same time. Gross.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before the robots get there, which will be the inevitable. You're right. I mean, what's the next evolutionary step of labor costs? Someone that doesn't call in sick or need time off. Yeah.
Yep. Because now it's impossible to do and they're too expensive to begin with.
Yeah.
So, man, automate everything.
Mm-hmm.
So like that, and that's gonna be the answer for any fast food restaurant, any corporation, any grocery store, any type of service industry that doesn't take a specific skill. Like it'll be a while before we get robot people cutting your hair, but like
it's closer than you think, man. I know some people that there's a big like tech expo every year that's centered around like restaurant technologies and stuff. And you get a lot of like, big burger players and stuff that go there and all this. But really what it's centered around is the tech companies that are bringing to life the very automations you're talking about.
Yeah.
The automatic drink pouring machine, the automatic timer and French fry distribution thing.
Well,
how much can we put together to put something that's a stop and go in an airport where we don't have to staff for it and you can just on your way to the plane use your phone to order whatever and a little robot hands you your hamburger and stuff and it all comes out of a machine and was assembled behind the wall. These things exist today and like they're getting better and better at. So it's much closer than people probably realize. Like I got to talk about this with a bunch of people recently and I was like, wow, I was just like really shocked. Cool, but weird.
One of the things that strangely is happening even here in small town Coeur d'Alene. We have a Vietnamese soup, a pho restaurant here, and it's our favorite. There's two in town, and this is the good one. The other one sucks.
This is the good one. There's always a good one. Yeah.
Right. So, but it's down in Riverstone, and it's called Pho Lee One, and they have it's all you always know it's the good pho restaurant if there's a number in the name.
Yeah.
But
it's a great barometer. We both lived in Seattle. We know it's true.
We know the reality of it, right? But they've got this robot that serves you your food. It's like literally like probably about I want to say 4.5 feet tall, and it's got like 3 trays on it, matted trays, and a display screen, and it's basically on tank treads or like maybe like a series of 3 wheels, and they just program what table it's supposed to go to, and it delivers you your food. It just drives around, and then sometimes the waiter will follow it with like a tray of glasses, and all the food is on there, and they just take it off, and then they press a button. They've named it. Like it's already, even here in a tiny little restaurant here, there's already robots serving us our food. So I don't know, like there's no reversing this. It's only gonna go the other direction. And honestly, like part of me is like, I kind of like the robot, but at the same time, I'm kind of terrified of it too. I watch it the entire time we're there, and I'm like trying to eat soup, watching this robot scoot around and deliver everybody's food, and like there's something primal in me wants to get up and just like hammer smash it with like a club.
I own 3 robots that do menial tasks for me. One of them is Chester the pool scrubbing robot. You plug Chester in, it's just a pool vacuum, and he just floats around and just like drinks up everything that's on the bottom of the pool. And he freaks out when the wind gets real high down here and it blows rocks into the pool. And like he'll drink up a rock and he'll just start freaking out. You got to like go save Chester. It's the whole thing. And then I have 2 of those automatic vacuums, the little Roomba guys or whatever. One of them is suicidal. The upstairs one tries to throw himself off the stairs all the time. Like you'll see the stair and there's a sensor in there that's like if you're going to fly off the stairs, he'll stop and back up. He'll see it. He'll stop. And he'll scoot left and he'll scoot right. And then he just full throttles it and jumps off the stairs. He's done this twice. I'm like, hey, man, you need a day off. Let me know. Shit, let's not take it to extremes. I'm very, very scared of these robots to this day. Like, If one of them starts talking to me or whatever, I'm gonna kick it a lot.
Well, they're all recording us anyway.
I'm gonna hit it with my hand. Yeah, I don't do the smart home integration stuff. Just for those of you that are curious about the technology, a true technologist will probably look at the home stuff and be like, if it makes noise, I would shoot it. Like I don't install any of that stuff. So, but the robot vacuums are helpful.
To not buy TVs that have cameras in them.
I wouldn't.
Yeah. So because they never turn off. Like I was like, oh, what about this one? And my buddy's like, it's got the camera in it, dude. Don't do that. And I was like, oh.
My favorite phone, OnePlus made a phone. It was the 7 Pro. And it was a full flat screen. And the front camera was not embedded into the screen. It popped up out of the shell. And if you accidentally dropped the phone, the accelerometer would realize the phone's falling and it would suck the camera back down so it didn't land on the head and snap the camera lens or whatever.
Wow.
But you always knew when the camera was on because it popped up. It physically came out of the top of the phone and it was like, cool, I know the camera's on or not. These ones you don't know. No. It could just be streaming stuff. So yeah.
Yep.
I wouldn't do that with my TV either. I realize I'm crunching the tinfoil hat down a little bit, but I know technology and it exists.
And not after FISA just passed again.
Yeah.
So they're literally just allowed themselves to spy on anybody for any reason, every keystroke, every camera. And so good for us.
Well, I hope they enjoy our show. Hey, question for you.
Yeah.
This comes from Fox News. How vast was the great COVID cover-up? ? This news came out this week and I was enthralled and didn't get a chance to follow up on it. Investigations are discovering that government officials from 15 federal agencies knew in 2018 that the Wuhan Institute of Virology was trying to create a coronavirus like COVID-19. These officials knew the Chinese lab was proposing to create a corona-like virus, and not one of these officials revealed the scheme to the public. In fact, 15 agencies with knowledge of this project have continuously refused to release any information concerning the alarming and dangerous research. Government officials representing 15 federal agencies were briefed on a project proposed by Peter Daszak's Eco Health Alliance in the Wuhan Institute of Virology. This project, the Defuse Project, proposed to insert a furin cleavage site into a coronavirus to create a novel chimeric virus that would have been shockingly similar to COVID-19. For years, this is commenting from the writer of this article, for years I've been fighting to obtain records from dozens of federal agencies relating to the origins of COVID-19 and the Defuse Project. Under duress, the administration finally released documents that show the Defuse Project was pitched to at least 15 agencies back in 2018. What does that mean? It means they knew from the beginning of the pandemic that the Eco Health Alliance and the Wuhan Institute of Virology were seeking federal funding in 2018 to create a virus genetically very similar, if not identical, to COVID-19. Disturbingly, not one of the 15 agencies spoke up to warn us that the Wuhan Institute of Virology had been pitching this research. Not one of them warned anyone that the Chinese lab had already put together plans to create such a virus. Peter Daszak concealed this proposal. The University of North Carolina scientist Ralph Barrick, a named collaborator on the Defuse Project, failed to reveal that the Wuhan Institute of Virology had already proposed to create a virus similar to COVID-19. And now that we know that 15 agencies heard this proposal, and when each agency discovered COVID-19 was strangely similar to the Defuse proposed virus creation, not one agency head stepped forward to warn the public that the virus might be man-made and therefore already adapted to transmit freely among humans. Not surprising to some of us, Fauci's National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases was not only briefed on Wuhan's desire to create the virus, NIAID was actually listed as a participant in the initial Defuse pitch. Fauci's Rocky Mountain Lab was named as a partner alongside of the Wuhan Institute of Virology in said proposal. This goes on and on and on. Ending with shame on all those that covered up the Defuse Project. Of course, they should be punished, but likely wouldn't. At the very least, though, the perpetrator should be made to admit the truth, and Congress should finally put in place sufficient oversight to make sure that dangerous gain-of-function experiments are sufficiently vetted and, if necessary, prevented outright. Yeah.
Yeah. There wasn't a single syllable that you just said.
Oh, you know who wrote that?
Who?
Republican Rand Paul, Kentucky, United States Senate.
That makes
sense.
Makes
a lot of sense.
So, yeah, this guy has been on. Rand Paul's been on it since day one, and it's because he's a doctor. So, and he frequents and hangs out in medical circles. That's who his peers are.
I think you and I are mature enough to go, agnostic of our political affiliation, we would love to know the truth.
Yeah. But there wasn't a single syllable that you said within that entire 2 minutes
right.
reading that there was a single thing that I hadn't heard from the very beginning, but also had been every syllable down to the gentleman in North Carolina.
Yep.
All of it, every bit of it was brought to the attention of people saying, this is what happened. They were laughed at, told to put tinfoil hats on,
fired from their job,
were made pariahs to society. I mean, essentially, in a roundabout way, every single person at my Seattle shop no longer talks to me because of exactly this type of information that I was saying, hey guys, look at this. And they all went, you're a nutbag. We're done with you. And I'm like, but it's literally how can you not see it? And so, none of this is shocking to me. It is shocking that 15 different agencies said nothing.
That's what drew my eye.
That was kind of the plan,
Yeah, that's what drew my eye because
because then it suggests motivation at that point.
Yeah, because the whole premise is well, how can you sit there and say, well, it looks like poop and it smells like poop. Oh God, it tastes like poop. Sure glad we didn't step in it. Must not be poop.
Right.
What? 15 agencies, not one person stepped forward and went, hey, you know what? I've heard this before somewhere.
Yeah. And it just makes you think that that was the directive. You all know about this and you're all going to be quiet about it because we did it on purpose. This didn't accidentally happen. And so, and that's the motivation that I see coming out of an entire 15 government agencies who had years of knowledge prior to none of them say a word during the entire thing. None of them say, hey, is this the thing that happened in 2018 that we were all not only privy to, but a part of, that we all contributed to?
Right.
That they weren't innocent bystanders.
Oddly, how then could Fauci's partnership in this proposal then land him a seat as the figurehead of what to do in said pandemic crisis?
Right.
Should that not have been deep questions, if not outright indictments, for the murders of all the people that I realize I'm spinning down a hole with emotion on a lot of this stuff, but goddamn, 15 agencies knew about this.
Fauci on a global level is on par with Mao as far as how much blood is on his hands. And the man got to retire and ride his donkey off into the sunset. And instead of being locked away, honestly, locked away and sent to prison for the remainder of his natural life would be mercy in consideration to what actually should and legally happen to that man. To be able to do what he did on that level and then sell out to other countries for money and also sell out his own country for money. There's
layers.
I cannot say.
Yeah.
I cannot say on YouTube about the federal level of law, the law that applies to somebody who is found treasonous, and that it falls absolutely under treason for what he did to his countrymen and what he did to the world. I mean, he did it to the world, and the vast majority of the blame falls on his shoulders. If not for anything else, he was the figurehead of it.
Yeah.
You know, and so multiple of his organizations were involved in the development and the hiding of this bioweapon that he made and unleashed upon the world. So, you know, he already knew he wasn't supposed to be doing gain of function. All of the congressional hearings where he sat in front and tried to play word games with what is a gain of function, what is that, you know, and the back and forth with Rand Paul was telling that the man knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah.
He knew that he was skirting the law, that they were not supposed to be doing that, and he did it anyway. And he had multiple shell companies on top of his regular NIH companies developing this, not only in the United States. Remember when all the Chinese scientists kept getting arrested at airports because they had vials? Yeah, guess what that was about? So all of this stuff was going, like, from Boston, the Boston professor who was the Chinese spy, basically going back and forth with vials between Wuhan and Boston and North Carolina. Yeah, like, and people just do not want to see it because they do not believe that type of evil is actually in the world. They do not believe it. They think that they come from this idea that people are generally good, and they're not. People are not generally good.
Yeah, it's sad when the premise of Mission Impossible 2 becomes a reality in 2020.
Yeah, right? Yeah. And that's it. I mean, we're at that point, and we need to something needs to be done about this. I don't know who has, at this point in time, if we even have the levers of power to actually put into play any type of
probably not. I mean, I would look to the wisdom and the authority of probably Justin Trudeau, a real world leader up in Canada. No, wait, that's not right. That can't be right. Anyway, the part that, like, I've heard all of this before, save for how many agencies in the U.S. were briefed on such a thing in 2018. That's the part that I was just like, oof, gross.
It also
how
correlates with
bad does this get?
It also correlates with the wargaming that they were doing on it too in the same year. So they were wargaming a global pandemic and what would happen, and you know, Gates and Fauci were all involved in the wargaming too. So like, you've got all of
doesn't Bill Gates have a playbook on how to survive a pandemic? Yeah,
he certainly does.
Fun.
He's got a lot of playbooks, but yeah,
got a lot of farmland too.
Certainly does. Yeah.
So you also message. You also mentioned that Coachella's dead. Festivals in general. What's going on? You're scaring me with all this live rock concert stuff never happening again. What happened?
I think they're dying.
I think so too.
Coachella, I don't know if you saw anything about this new Coachella. I don't know anybody who, like, half the people in Coachella I've never heard of before, and I think that's just
being old.
And that's just how it works. Like, there, you get to an age where you just stop recognizing the set lists of all the people that are going to be coming to this new festival, right? I get excited when I'm like, oh, I know half of them, you know, like, but for, like, I've been watching all over social media that a bunch of stuff didn't go well at Coachella. That it was kind of a disaster. Like, there was a low turnout, and that there were just some of the acts, like a DJ couldn't even play because she didn't know her own music or something. And then, like, there was just a bunch of stuff that just didn't work out, and it was all kind of a fizzle out fiasco. Nothing catastrophic, but it just all kind of went all over the place and wasn't really great. And then this is coming off of last year's debacle at Burning Man, where everyone got stuck in the mud for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, right?
Well, even the When We Were Young that launched last year in Las Vegas, the first day was so windy that it blew out where people couldn't, like one half of the festival was closed too. And it's a kind of a cool show. It's tickles my fancy. This year was announced, they moved it to October, but it's like Green Day, Blink, 30 Seconds to Mars, The Offspring, Thrice, Rise Against, like bands in my ilk.
Right.
Something Corporate, the Ataris, like bands I didn't even know were still together. Phoenix TX, MXPX. There's a lot of it, but yeah, last year it blew apart too. Like the wind just blew the fairgrounds apart, and they were like, we can't do this.
Well, I'm not even.
So,
I'm not even talking about like weather related instances,
but just the general death of.
I just think that like it's way too saturated now. Like every time I open up Facebook or something, there's a new festival I've never heard of with 1,000 bands, some of which I've heard of, and other ones I haven't heard any of them. But it's far too saturated. Plus, we're in a culture that no longer appreciates in the moment. Everything's about the picture. Everything's about showing your Instagram that you, or your TikTok, that you were there, that you did the thing. So it is killing it from the inside and the outside. I think that there's a shelf life on festival gatherings, and I think that we are on the downward spiral of it. I think they desperately are trying to keep it alive, which is what happens right before the fall of anything. You get an oversaturation of it because everyone's like desperately trying to fill the gap, right? And so it's the same thing in the tattoo world. Like tattoo conventions were everywhere, and then COVID hit, and then COVID became a big problem for the tattoo industry. But even afterwards, like the convention circuit isn't what it used to be anymore, and it's slowly dying. People are like, like most of the kids that are that are coming up into tattooing don't care about the convention thing. They're in a totally different world where their workspace is like a salon, and it's not the same as like the old scoundrel pirates that wanted to travel around and drink with each other in different cities, and get trophies and awards and network and do all that kind of stuff. These introvert, autistic new tattooers want nothing to do with socializing outside of their stick and poke studios. And so you're starting to see the death of those. Like guys that have been running these conventions for years are like, hey, the convention's only less than a week away and we still have 10 booths. Who wants one? Like,
right.
It is becoming less and less every year, where that the generations that kept these things alive and actually wanted to be a part of them are still actively involved in them. Same thing with the music industry. I think everyone's going to want to look at their screen rather than, or go onto a VR space where they're going to do live performances rather than go to
that's happening, and it's weird.
Yeah. And I think that's going to take over live performances. And once again, the artists are all going to get frustrated with it's no longer the experience for rock stars to get together. It's become a completely alien animal to them, where they are mixed in with social influencers and all of this stuff, where it has kind of watered down the purity of what that scene and the music scene of festivals used to be. And now I don't know.
I think it's definitely changing. There's a lot of factors to it. Like venues didn't get cheaper, they got more expensive. So people's desire or ability to attend some of these 2-day, 3-day things might not be what it was. all the points you just mentioned are extremely valid. Plus, the record label used to have a lot of promotion back. You know what I mean? Like your manager
Right.
could put you on the circuit for all these festivals in between tours.
Because you were promoting an album.
Correct. And now most of the artists are independently producing music outside of a record label, rock bands, rap artists, electronic musicians. So it makes more sense for them
putting out singles. Now they just put out singles instead of full albums.
Oh yeah, the album is like gone. Alkaline Trio's new album is awesome, by the way.
It is. I listened to it. It's great.
The connecting to social media influencer makes a lot of sense for the independent artists because that's how they're promoting their music and stuff. So I definitely think it is changing for sure. Is it resulting in the death of the music festival? Probably. Yeah. I don't think live music will go away.
No.
But the festival, the way that we remember them and the way that they're, to your point, being way like oversaturated everywhere. I wanted to think, because I thought about this passively, like, I don't know, a year ago or so. I was like, I wanted to think that the reason I was seeing much more of these explosions of like festival this and concert series that and this in the park and whatever was because people were coming out of COVID.
Yeah.
And they're like, let's get out, you know, and it was like everyone wanted. But to your point, the more I think about it, I think you're right. You know, I think a lot of it is the final throes before death kind of thing where it's just like everyone's I think you could be right. I mean, I hope that the rock concert particularly, but the concert doesn't die, and I'm not sure that it will, but the festival piece like that probably. I mean, there's some heritage stuff that'll stick around, but it's different, like South by Southwest and Austin City Limits and stuff like that.
You'll
But
probably get the big 4 or 5,
Yeah.
you know, the big, and that's it. Like those ones will survive. And then regular rock concerts will, where you'll have one, you know, a three band show.
Yeah.
Where you'll have an opener, a middle guy, and then the headliner, right? And you'll have those forever because they'll always be able to afford that kind of ticket and that kind of audience.
Yeah.
But when you're trying to buy festival tickets and the cheapest ones are between, you know, $200 and $500, we're in an economy that just can't justify that anymore. And then on top of that, you know, they've got to charge that much just to afford the venues and all of all the bells and whistles that they have to throw into these things anymore. It's almost becoming it's cost prohibitive. You know, why would you do that?
That was my first point. Like, I'm not sure people can afford to do stuff like this now, you know, especially with some of those monster venues. But like the other thing too is the reason people are showing up in, this is a hot take because I have no proof of this at all. This is just me saying what I think. I think the people that show up and the DJ that forgot to play her own music and stuff like that, you know, that type of act. Similarly, that promoter's going to lose his fucking ass if he doesn't have a full card. So who knows how far down the list in the yellow pages of artists they have to look for some of these acts that don't have their shit together to play a festival the size that they're booking them for, you know? But they're like, well, you know, it's a paid gig and I got one and nobody else did. I'm going to go check it out. Like, there's no vetting process for that, especially not in electronic music. Unless you've seen that person live, you're not going to know because all you've heard them on is SoundCloud or heard their single on, you know, Spotify or whatever. So could be that the quality of artist as a byproduct is also falling, which is, it's a whirlpool. It's a, you know, it's a downward spiral
for
from
sure.
there. Yeah.
Yep. So, and that was just kind of my take on it. I had seen a lot of people posting videos, and one of them caught my attention was that this girl was getting dressed up, to fake that she goes, I'm getting dressed up to go to Coachella. Never mind, I have 3 kids and I haven't left, you know, my county in 10 years, right? I'm just joking. And then, you know, and I can't afford to go kind of thing. And then I heard also that there was girls and influencers that go outside of Coachella or whatever and get all their photos as if, oh, look, we're here. Woo, our life is so great, so that they can post it, but don't actually get tickets and go in. Or they'll even straight up green screen it and try to pretend like they traveled all the way there to get there and
Mhm.
actually try to show off the lifestyle of being able to go to Coachella. That stuff is an indicator that these things are now no longer the experience of the music.
Right.
These things are the experience of the picture.
It's about the image, not the experience. Yeah.
Right. And that's going to kill any music scene.
Yep.
It always has. And so
there's a part of this that's being old as well. Like I have a really embarrassing story. One of my favorite bands is Circa Survive. It has been since they cut their first record in 2006.
You
and
have multiple tattoos I've done on you from that.
Yeah,
from that band. So.
Love that band. So
yeah,
I have a ticket to see them at Showbox in the Market one random year, and these tickets are pinned to my refrigerator by a magnet, so I could see them every day. And I put on PJs and I'm ready to go to bed. I'm fucking scrolling on my phone, and I was like, I'm gonna get up and go to the kitchen and get some water. And I look over and I'm like, that's today's date. I should be at a concert right now. I got like 30 minutes or so. Maybe they're not on stage yet. So I get downtown. I just threw jeans and shoes on. I literally show the ticket at the door. I walk in and stand there. They're playing the last song, and then they come out for an encore and did one of my favorite songs, and I was like, sick. And I turned around and walked out, went up. Did not see the opener, did not see the warm-up act, did not see Circa Survive play, but I did catch them play 2 songs live on that particular night, and went home and went right back to bed. PJ's back on. Crawled into bed. I was like, what a concert. I didn't even need to find a seat. That was awesome. Because I'm old as fuck. Yeah.
Soto's a good venue too. I've seen a couple bands at Soto.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
Actually, I did the what was it? And it was got to be 2016, 2017. It was the what is the video game with the basically it's a Borderlands. The Borderlands 3 launch party.
Oh yeah.
So me and my crew got to go there and tattoo at the Borderlands 3 launch party.
Nice.
So whatever company makes that video game, I don't even know.
I can look it up. Probably a Northwest-based company.
Contacted us, and it was during PAX, and they rented all of that, all of Showbox Soto, and they rented that and threw a massive party. And part of that party was they hired me in my shop to go down there, and they built it like a stage for us with rails so that nobody could come up. And they're just like, we'll pay you a stupid amount of money to show up for one night, bring 5 or 6 small designs that you can get done really quick, and give out free tattoos to a line of people. We were there for like 5 hours, and I had like 5 artists just pumping out free tattoos on all, and just like the base of the DJ for this event was like shaking our whole like stage, and like it was a crazy
That's
party.
Incredible. Yeah, many publishers: 2K Games, Take-Two Interactive, Telltale Games, Sony, Asper, Xbox Game Studios, and Cyberfront. So who knows which Borderlands? Gearbox Software was involved. There's a bunch of different.
Right.
Yeah.
So, well, it was fun. We had a good time. I still have pictures of all that, but
so
speaking of video games.
Yeah, I was gonna say we can do that, and we can end on the Gen Z gospel. But speaking of video games, I'm excited for this part.
Yeah, I normally try to watch as much content as possible. The only thing I got through, and I powered through it, was the
Fallout,
the Amazon original series Fallout.
Yep.
And
Bethesda Game Studios and Amazon Prime.
I will preface this by saying that although I've tattooed some stuff from Fallout. I've seen, obviously lots of content from Fallout. I'm fairly somewhat familiar with the lore. He's got posters back there.
Fallout posters. Yeah.
But I'm not super familiar with the lore, and I've never played the games. I know a lot of people that are really into the Fallout games, but the concept of dystopian nuclear winter future is always in my wheelhouse of interest. So, so I was very excited for this show because it looked really cool. Right up, I've never played the video game, but it looked like something that I would enjoy.
The content, I think, holds up for someone that didn't play any of the games, and it's cool we have this perspective difference because I did play many of the games.
Yeah.
But yeah, like as a story in a cool setting, I think you can pass by enjoying parts of it or all of it without having played the game before. You really got to suspend some disbelief here, but it puts you in a cool place.
Right. Yeah. And I enjoyed like almost every minute of this. I think that it was well written. The casting was fantastic. The pace of it was really good. It didn't drag or have any lulls anywhere. I was actually invested in all the side arcs. Like I was like, oh, okay, when they would bring in like the night guy, I wasn't like, I don't want to watch this part. I'm more invested in this other storyline. Even when they do go into the past and all, they did a really good job of making sure you were invested in all of the different story arcs.
Do you know who created this series?
I do not.
For the one we're referencing, not the video game that was published by Bethesda Game Studios. Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy. You know what they did just before Fallout?
No.
Westworld.
What? You know what? The reason that makes so much sense. Like I did not look into it, but
a lot of like thematic similarities. There's a lot of like pulse to the storyline that you're like, got it.
Yep. The minute you said that, it made perfect sense to me. Yeah. So, but yeah, a lot of engaging characters, and it was fun where it needed to be fun and serious where it needed to be serious. And no, I really enjoyed it. It obviously had forced political overtones, but how could you avoid that in a movie about capitalism about a video game that's about basically capitalism versus communism and Cold War kind of stuff. It would have to come up. So, and I'm sure it probably did in the video games, but it didn't really paint one side or the other more evil than the other. Like communism was painted really evil, but so was capitalism, and then also the freedom fighters that were being called communists weren't actually communists. They just understood both of the other sides of the spectrum. So like it was pretty ambiguous as far as I could tell, on a political level, but I kind of didn't care because it was so much fun.
Yeah. What I think is super fascinating about it is that none of the video games take place around any of the characters that we met in this series. So they just plucked innocuous NPC storyline out of a vast video game world and created a TV series to start with these characters. And it does encompass many of parts of the game. Fallout 4, Fallout 76. There's a lot of themes that are plucked from each of these games as far as the content build. So the universe is pretty open for exploration, because if there's a season 2, we could learn brand new characters with a brand new set of rules. And that's what I thought was really fascinating, is like, how are they going to make this work if there isn't tie-ins in these threads weaving in between all these different storylines, if they choose to go down that route, because you can't get emotionally attached to a character and then never see them again.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think they did a really good job of setting up the fact that there's so much interplay in this corner of where we're taking the stories unfolding, which is in like Southern California.
Yeah.
But there's many different vaults across America. There's many different rules around each, and the perspectives are vastly different because while the major factions are the same in each of the universes, their interpretation of what's real and what isn't is not the same. And neither are any of the vaults, which I thought was really, really unique.
So the fabric of this universe could go on and on forever, and
correct.
They could do spin-off. Oh wow, that's going to be really fascinating.
Yeah, because throughout all of Fallout, the things that we don't really know is what happens outside of America. So even if you get through every one of the vaults and you figure out, oh, I got it. I got all this vast tapestry of what's going on here and stuff. We have no idea what's going on in the Fallout side of the universe outside of America in this perspective.
Wow.
So it could be a completely different universe, pretty much. The same central rules and tenets of the Wasteland would likely apply. Other than that, who knows what kind of experimental creatures, people, factions, these are things we don't know. But it was really well done. I mean, as a person that did play the games, they captured a lot of stuff that was very game specific without tipping the hat so far toward the core audience of the game that it would have annihilated or alienated the casual watcher, which is how you sell a show.
Right.
It has Walton Goggins in it, which I love because he's great. Yeah. And this time he just gets to do a lot of fun. Like, hey, I'm just screwing around in a desert, and it's a great role, and he's killing it, you know? So like, there's a bunch of cool components to each of the characters that we meet that I really enjoyed. A lot of actors I didn't know before the show that I think are really cool. It was a good time. I couldn't put it down. That was how I knew it was a good time, is because I'm not a super fan of Fallout. I think it's one of the cooler, long-standing games we've had, but the show was so good. I just kept, getting to the next episode. So I had a great time with it. I would recommend it for a series standalone. I'm going to give it probably 6.5 megs. As a video game series that was successfully adapted to a show that I like, it's 11 megs, 11 out of 10. They never do this right.
Yeah.
Silent Hill as a movie sucked. Resident Evil was, you got to love or hate it, but it's campy and kind of a waste of time for what they wanted. Doom, who the fuck can take that seriously? Every video game, Street Fighter, come on. Like they're so bad. This one was done so good. So
Last of Us wasn't bad though. Did you ever see
Last of Us? Yeah, Last of Us had a little bit of head up its own assery. They gassed up.
I agree.
They gassed up Last of Us so fucking hard at the fact that there's this. What they had the episode where the two male characters fall in love and then kill themselves in a very subjective and edgy kind of way, and all this. So like. The theme above the story, they gassed up so far that it's like critically acclaimed, but the story itself and the adaptation piece of it was good, but it wasn't holy shit good.
I would agree with you in comparison, especially to this.
Yeah,
this was entertaining. This was fun.
Yeah,
the other one was
like Mushroom Monster or unknown Fallout, nuclear Fallout universe. Yeah,
right.
I tend to lean toward the latter, but
yeah. No, you're right. You're right. In comparison, for sure. I like that I now have more of a connection to all of the Vault Boy tattoos that I've, that I've tattooed in the past. So, but it is, without a doubt, it was fun from beginning to end. I loved the humor. I loved the, the cameos. There's a lot of fun cameos in it. And it was great. So like, I would probably give it, considering I don't have any previous background to the source material, I would say probably 8 megs, because I, like you, could not put it down. I wanted to watch. Yeah. Like, I was kind of obsessively wanting to get home from work to watch more episodes, and I think I powered through the last 4 in a day just to consume it, because
I think the other thing they did to make it a lot more approachable to people that weren't fans of the game is that device they all wear on their arm is called a Pip-Boy.
Yeah, and
it's central to the game. It gives you everything. It's how you manage inventory. It's how you read documents like holograms. It's how you send communications. Sometimes it's your radar. It tells you when to take radiation medication. It does everything. You're constantly using this as a game menu. And they used it enough where you're like, okay, this is critically important to a vault dweller for reasons that remain unclear. But then it's a flashlight. It's also a tracking, like it's like a micro supercomputer that everyone gets to wear on their wrist, and everybody gets one. Yeah. And so I thought that was well done because they didn't overdo it. And where they could have overdone it, they definitely tipped their hat to a few things that I really enjoyed. And then they didn't just go absolutely crazy with it. The application of the use of the dog was like enough. It wasn't too much, you know, where it's like, oh, cool. And the dog's back. Oh, no, you know, now this character's working with the dog. Like, like
I thought that was pretty cool.
They did enough right that I was like, this is pretty good for the average, you know.
Visually, one of the things that I really enjoyed about it is that every introduction and every ending was different, but visually beautiful. Like when they pull the Fallout, like sign, you know, it's some type of different radioactive or under poison or something,
like, you know, it's ashes blowing away and then it's electrically charged, and all
of those things. And then the ending scene kind of recaps the entire episode, but in an animated way of like pulling out from the episode. And it's just really well done. It's beautifully done. The music is also really great too.
The music's good.
They did a really good job with the soundtrack. Yeah.
A lot of the NPC stuff was spot on. Like the T-61 power armor that the Brotherhood of Steel has a bunch of copies of. Excellently done. Especially how it operates. The Mr. Handy, that, you know, our central character talks to Mr. Handy, and then he's very polite, and then suddenly she realizes he's just gonna harvest some organs. That's what he's here for. Very game accurate, because you run into Mr. Handies all the time. You don't know what you're gonna get. Some of them are cool and want to talk to you. Some of them want to shoot you. Some of them are working for somebody else. They're all programmed in this post-apocalyptic world to be different than what their use case was intended for when they were released. Which is all part of a greater story arc that you kind of get to understand why things were developed, who developed them, who's in cahoots with who, and then where you think things ended after the big bomb strike. This is a great series, and I think for people that enjoy some sci-fi, some video game stuff, and they're interested, they could not have picked a better game to try to do this with, because it's so open-ended. And I think it was a very easy one to get wrong, and I think they got a lot right. And so I thought it was really, really fun. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. You got anything on the horizon for what you want to watch coming up? Anything that's sparking your interest?
There is a movie that's out now that I want to see with the guy that plays Superman. His name is escaping me.
Henry Cavill.
It's called the League of Ungentlemanly Warfare, something along those lines. Have you seen a trailer for this?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested to see that, because it feels very Inglourious Bastards to me, but maybe a little more stuffy and upright. Other than that, as far as series are concerned, the problem with dropping a series like Fallout all at once is that I'm going to pound through it in a weekend, and then I'm going to have nothing to watch. So, no, I still got to take a look. I finished the Octopus Murders. I got through a couple of docs. There's that movie that's out that I want to check out, and that's about it. I'm going to have some visitors come down. I know you got a move coming up. Things are going to get tight with that. So I got to go sit down and figure out what content I need to bang out for the next 3 weeks.
There is that new, the second part of that series.
The whatever it is that Zack Snyder did, the Netflix series, right? Something Rebel Moon, Rebel Moon 2.
Yeah, the second Rebel Moon. Yeah. I'm gonna check that out this week.
Yeah. When does that come out? Is it Friday?
I think so. I think it's the 19th. So yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, and then there's some other ones that, you know, are kind of going on right now, like the new X-Men 97, everyone's raving about. I don't know. I'm not sure if I have the heart to go into that though, because although it was near and dear at the time, because I mean I graduated in 96, so 97 was, and I was an X-Men fan.
Yeah.
So that series, really is. But I've heard not only it's really good, but I've also heard that it's super woke.
Yeah.
And so I'm a little
it's Disney,
hesitant.
isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, there you go.
But yeah, The Gentleman is something that's on my radar. I've got to watch that.
That is a fun series. Now,
Yeah.
I'm going to take a stab at this and say that I am probably way more of a Guy Ritchie fan than you are, just as a whole. Like,
no.
Okay, you're going to fucking love this. Did you watch the movie, The Gentleman?
Not yet. I have to watch that first and then
start there. Yeah, start there.
So, no, I've loved everything Guy Ritchie's ever touched, including his Sherlock Holmes, including
same. I just rewatched Revolver the other night for no reason, and that's like one of his lesser known flicks, and I'm like, God, it's so good.
I love his King Arthur film even. It's cheesy, but I love it. It's so much fun. So I love Guy Ritchie stuff.
Okay. Yeah, you're going to have a blast with that one. That's a really good watch. I'm not sure the kids would be as hooked, but it's very Guy Ritchie feel, and he even directs a few of the episodes too, even though he's like the executive producer for the whole show, which is awesome. But the movie he directed, and that was the original story from him and all that. I think you'll have a great time.
Yeah, that's probably what I'll go into this week. So, because I need something that's dialogue heavy and I can put it in the background, and I think that'll be perfect. So.
Yeah, I watched a series that was not great. I don't know why I thought it would be, but it's called like Ninja House or something like that. House of Ninja. And it's all about ninjas, and I love it. Like that's
you always have loved
you're in my lane with ninja stuff. It's a little soap opera-y and a little campy, and it's a translated series too. So wasn't an easy watch for me, but I put it down anyway because ninjas were involved. So there you have it.
Yeah. But one of the ones that I saw coming out that was super weird, and I didn't realize it. They're doing a biopic on Benjamin Franklin.
Oh, interesting.
But Michael Douglas is playing Benjamin Franklin.
I thought for a second you were going to hit me with Christian Bale. That's even weirder.
Yeah, Michael Douglas is playing Benjamin Franklin, but he couldn't let go of his ego and made even his character, the hair goes up to the forehead. He's not bald like Benjamin Franklin. And so, yeah, there's already some people kind of complaining, and I just don't see him as that kind of actor. He's not a period piece actor.
No.
And so I have a feeling that I'm very much not going to care for that one.
Probably not going to be a bunch of Megs on that score. That said. No.
And then I've, obviously the curiosity of the Civil War movie that came out.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting about the same. It's getting about the results that I thought it would. People saying that it's obviously anti-Trump, but they barely actually play on the political, and that the alignment of the different factions is hilarious because Idaho would never side with Oregon, and California would never side with Texas. And so, but it's mainly from a journalist point of view.
Yeah.
But from what I gather, it's not good. But I don't know.
It's so disinteresting to me because of like whether it glorifies the faction in the divorcing of the country or not. It wouldn't exist without that being the foundational premise that kicks the story off. And I don't like the idea that that's celebrated, but I can't imagine I would enjoy the content, especially coming from a journalist perspective on what I don't care. If it comes out to a streaming service in a few years and I'm bored to tears, I'll probably throw it on and be like, oh yeah, but I don't know. I didn't expect it would be, breaking new ground. So I think that there is a pretty
Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare.
That's it. Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. That one looks fun. It looks fun.
Oh. I'm looking forward to a new vampire movie because me and my horror movies, but there's a new one called Abigail that looks really good but also funny. So I'm looking forward to that one. So
actually a friend of ours sent me a text. Dan Reyes sent me a text.
Oh, Mr. Reyes.
Hollywood Reporter says there is a live-action R-rated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie in the works from producer Walter Hamada.
What?
So Tyler Burton Smith, who co-wrote the upcoming action movie Boy Kills World, is currently
that looks good.
penning the script for this high body count tale. After the success of last year's animated film, Paramount is keeping the Turtle Power going by putting a feature project into development. This one, however, will go beyond the realm of all ages material. Standing Property is known for, and instead going with a very gritty, R-rated, darker territory. They are developing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin, adapting a popular storyline seen in IDW
that's what
comics.
I thought it was going to be.
With the intent of making it an R-rated full film.
Yeah, I'm in.
I'm in.
The old Eastman and Laird comics were obviously very, very violent.
Correct.
And before Archie Comics bought out from
way before
Eastman,
Mattel, way before that.
Yeah. Yeah. So they were gritty black and white comics, and they were very, very dark and very violent. The origins of the Turtles are not soft and friendly and pizza eating. You know,
they swore a lot, and they struggled with their consciences, and they killed people.
Yes.
Yeah,
it was based off of Daredevil. So like the entirety of it was based off of Frank Miller's run on Daredevil.
Yep.
And so it was meant to be that. And but that being said, they have kind of in the comic books gone back to that kind of grittier route. And the Last Ronin series for a long time, and this was I think it came out, probably the comics came out in like, I want to say 2019 is when they really started like producing the comics. And everyone loved them. They were huge, and it was because of the writing and how well and gritty it was. And there was a mystery involved in it. There was a mystery of who the Last Ronin was, which turtle.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited that they've decided to do a live action adaptation of this. It'll be really good.
If this makes it to production, like, principal photography and stuff, I'll start to get really, really hyped. But a lot of this stuff ends up getting scrapped right after the script is, written, and then it's revised, and then it's canned. So hopefully it comes through, because I'd be really tickled to see something like that. And looking back on it, I had a lot of reservations going into Nolan's Batman series. That turned out to be awesome. And frankly, the new The Batman with Robert Pattinson, I had a great time with that. Thought that was really good. There's problems I had with it, but by and large, like seeing Paul Dano's crazy ass as the Riddler and shit, well, like it was, I loved it.
I think there was a lot of things I did like about it. There was a few, it was just too long.
A 3-hour movie's a lot to,
everything, every time I thought it was the end of the movie, something else would happen. And then like, I'm like, man, this is like the third ending. And then they flooded the city.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how are we going to get out of this in 10 minutes? Right. There's no way, and so I
had to wonder about that. I was like, all right, I know production started and stopped 1 billion times over the pandemic for this thing and shit, but like Colin Farrell's Penguin was done so well, and like there's just so much of that movie that was fun. I hope the next one's not 3 hours long, but I'm eager to see where it goes.
At least I'll be prepared for it. I knew this one was too, but it felt 3 hours. It felt
3 hours long.
Yeah, like sometimes you can watch a 3-hour movie and you're like, oh, that didn't, that was so great. Like I'm
Yeah.
so, like the second Dune movie was 3 hours long,
Yeah.
and it didn't feel like it. That Batman movie felt like it. I just was, but there was so much good in it. Like he honestly, to me, Pattinson did really well as like Detective Batman.
Yeah.
Did I really care for him as Bruce Wayne? No, he was kind of an emo kid walking around like being pouty. I did have my but it's rewatchable. I love watching it. I can rewatch it all the time.
I mean, John Turturro was great in that for what he was, and I like there was Gordon, the guy that from Westworld that played Gordon, was awesome. But yeah, to your point, like, hopefully the next one, if it is 3 hours, doesn't feel 3 hours long. But I understand they are making another one, so
yeah, it should be coming out. I mean, I think they're filming it at least at
let
this
me
point.
see. The Batman 2 Part 2 2026 film. Yeah, what it says. We'll see.
That Boy Kills World you mentioned earlier looks really good. That looks fun.
Lots to watch.
They have a Sasquatch movie coming out that I think Kate and I are going to go see together. It's called Sasquatch Sunset. And it's like this weird kind of quirky comedy drama about like Sasquatch family living in the woods together, and it's like got the weirdest cast. Because the cast itself is Jesse Eisenberg, Riley Keough, Christopher Zedek. It's like a serious movie. It's not like some weird like Harry and the Hendersons goof trip. It's actually people who are all dressed up as actual Sasquatches, like Jesse Eisenberg, and they're all like in the woods. I don't even know. Like Kate and I saw a trailer for it, and we were like, we got to go see that. In the misty forests of North America, a family of Sasquatches, possibly the last of their enigmatic kind, embark on an absurdist epic, hilarious and ultimately poignant journey over the course of 1 year. These shaggy and noble giants fight for survival as they find themselves on a collision course with the ever-changing world around them. Action, adventure, comedy. But I may not go see this with my daughter because right here it says male frontal nudity, male full frontal nudity, male nudity. I'm like, oh, rated R for some sexual content, full nudity and bloody images. Okay, maybe we'll I might go see that.
Yeah, maybe we vet that out a little more.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Eisenberg and I don't have a good. I'm not a big fan of Eisenberg.
I think he's weirdly worthless. Like I was not a fan. I was like still not a fan. Like
you name me a movie that Eisenberg's done that Michael Cera wouldn't have done better, or somebody of that ilk. You know, I don't get behind him. I don't. No. Yeah.
There hasn't been a role I've never liked him. There hasn't been a role I've ever liked him in. That includes like even the Magician movies. Now You See Me. Those are great movies minus him. Like I could do without his character. Anybody could have filled that role way better.
He was born to play Mark Zuckerberg in The Social Network or whatever, and I still didn't like him he was the worst part of the movie to me.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
But even like the Zombieland movies, he was the worst character in that. Like I find him obnoxious. And the fact that anybody thought it was a good idea to put him in the role of Lex Luthor, were off their rocker. He did not pull that off.
No.
And it was an awful, awful depiction of Lex Luthor. He was not at all intimidating. He was not at all seemed like a genius. He seemed more Riddler, pre Riddler than he was Lex Luthor.
It's like the Riddler's weird cousin.
Right. Yeah. No good.
Yeah. Bad choice. Zombieland, as far as that goes, thank God for Woody Harrelson and the Twinkie though, saving that film.
Yeah.
And Emma Stone was fun in that too.
Yeah. Emma Stone was great. So
well, cool, man.
I need some Gen Z Bible before I go cook dinner.
Let's do it. Let's do it. So, you guys know what we do here. You know all about it. Let's figure out what. Let's
close out with a reading from the Word.
So we did a presentation, right? The Holy Baby Shower last week.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
All right. Chapter 7.
Upon it all week.
The report is due Monday. Chapter 7. His father's house. When Divine Bro was 12, his fam took him on their annual Independence Day road trip. So they skirted to the temple in Jerusalem and vibed for the whole Passover feast. After all the holy bustin' was done, Mary and Joseph hit the gritty to Nazareth for a whole day. And they realized Jesus had given them an Irish goodbye. My guys were stressing. They said that tracks not. How did we lose track of him? And they retraced their steps to find out when he swerved. They found him in the top G's house in Jerusalem. Bro was just casually teaching the teachers and explaining to them the divine dad lore, for he had already entered his wisdom era. Then Mary said, "Bruh, you playing too much. You had us shook for 3 to 5 business days." And Jesus said, "I had to vibe in my father's house. Didn't you know I must do it for the plot?" But his parents did not understand the assignment yet. Mary, core memory unlocked. They went home, and Jesus was always a real one to them. He continued his glow up and became more and more based. That's chapter 7.
Oh, man. The gift that keeps on giving.
Oh, it continues to get better and better. All right, brother.
Yeah.
I know you got to get some food. I got to get some food. Listeners, thanks for listening. Come check us out. Drop us a line. We're at, where are we at? We're modernrelicspodcast@gmail.com. You can hang out with us on YouTube when we do this, usually Tuesday evenings.
And, I just sit there waiting for you guys to email us.
Right. It's coming.
Pensively, just sitting there. Oh, when is it coming? Yeah.
Drop us a line. Let us know. We love y'all. We will see you soon. I know our schedules are going to get weird. You got a move coming up. I got new stuff at work coming up. So it's going to be nutty. All right, guys. We will see you next time.
Bye.